Welcome everyone to the Read and Writing Corner. I am your host, Lee Ann, and for this non-spoiler section of the review, we are doing The Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, Volume 1. Book 1. Whatever you want to call it, 1. Because it's just 1. This is part of a story series called The Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. It's by Fuse. Just Fuse. I don't have the real name or anything like that, or what have you. So, now about the series. He's a human that has been reincarnated into slime in a new world. What adventures await him? Literally. What made me read this book? Well, I've seen the first 2 seasons and some of the third, along with the movies that are currently out. I wanted to read the web novel that inspired the anime. Thus, I bought the books that came out. Because they're publishing. Yay! So, the blurb. Lonely 37-year-old Satoru Mikami is stuck in a dead-end job, unhappy with his mundane life, but after dying at the hands of a robber, he awakens to a fresh start in a fantasy realm as a slime monster. As he accumulates to his goopy new existence, his exploits with the other monsters set off a chain of events that will change his new world forever. So, basically, dying and being reincarnated was not what Satoru Mikami did not think would happen to him one day. He didn't think it would happen. Being reincarnated with slime wasn't what he expected either. The setup of the characters is long and takes time to establish each main character and side characters. Some motives are laid out as time moves forward in the book. The characters reacted to situations they find themselves in, how I imagine someone arriving in a new world with zero knowledge about a slime that can do things no normal slime can. The genre is considered to be teen and young adult fantasy. Did this live up to my expectations? Yes, it was awesome. And I got a whole bunch of information that the anime leaves out. Which is why sometimes it's good to read the books and stuff, because you get more information that is left out because of time crunch and everything. Or that they think doesn't really need to be explained. Like a lot of the magical systems in here and things that happen with the slime that he did. Some of it's just shortened and everything, and it's just you don't get as much as you would by reading the novel. Which character did I relate to the most? Satoru Mikami, going to work and having no significant other and coming home and going to work, coming home, going to work, coming home. That sort of thing is my routine. But I do this, of course, my 2 side YouTube channels as well. Which secondary character stood the most? Gapta. He's a very lucky goblin. Very lucky goblin. So lucky. What was more important? The characters or the plot? The world building was the most important thing, then it was the characters, then the plot. So the world building was done very well. And I know there's more to the world building that's going to happen in the subsequent novels, and I can't wait to see how that world building expands even further. Especially when you get more details about the world within it. And then it's of course the characters, like Rimuru is like the most important character in it, and his way of living and adapting is great. Like the world building happens around what Rimuru experiences. So as he experiences more and more stuff, the world expands and gets more complicated and more sophisticated. And then you have the plot, which is basically the first one is like, hey, this is how I ended up as a monster in a different world, and what I decided to do with it. It had multiple voices and it did not affect my reading. Should you go and read this story / series? Yes. If you love the anime, you will love this series because it gives you a little more information than otherwise. And as you then move from this, will you drop a like, comment, or even a lovely subscription down below. Alright folks, so there's a lot of stuff that goes on in here. I'm not going to do a lot of the whole lingo in this because there's a lot of lingo, and I'm just going to give you what lingo I have as it goes on, and it pops up in my thing. So, is that Toru Mikami Rimuru Tempest is the main character, and he becomes a slime. He becomes protected by Valdora and has a unique skill called Predator that is very powerful. So predator really is something that consumes everything in its path, and he can analyze it and even replicate or use it for himself. And he got the predator because he was like, I'm going to chase after more girls. I should chase after more girls, you know, in a predatory way, because he never had a girlfriend. When Veldor names him last name Tempest, well, as Rimuru, he marks him with a crest on his very soul that lets him know that he has the protection of Veldor the Storm Dragon, which is what Veldor Tempest is, because Rimuru gives him the last name Tempest. So there, he's Veldor Tempest, a Storm Dragon. He's one of the very few true dragons in existence, and if he disperses, eventually Veldor will come back. Of course, he won't have the same memories as before. He'll be completely new Veldor Storm Dragon, but he'll still be a Storm Dragon. He'll still be Veldora. Rigurd is a name given to the Elder of the Goblins, which evolves into the Hobgoblins, and females transform into Goblinas instead of just being goblins, which is the evolved form of goblins. The village Rimuru goes to, because they're like the scout Rigger with a bunch of others, goes to him because he's exuding magicals that show that he is a very powerful slime. And they think he's actually in a fake form, even though the slime form is his real one. And so they're like, we need your help to protect us because we're being assaulted and most of the goblins left us. So Rimuru's like, okay, yeah, I can help. I'll do what I can. He does take out the dire wolves, and when he does, he becomes the leader of them. And Ranga, which is the dire wolf son of the previous leader, he becomes a Tempest Storm Wolf, and it evolves all the other dire wolves into Storm Wolves because he was given a name that dealt with storm. Rimuru uses him like he's a horse, and Ranga doesn't really care. Ranga's happy to serve him. This is Ranga. It's pretty cool. And of course that's Rimuru. You didn't know. Then you have Gapta, of course. He's a very lucky goblin that evolves into a hobgoblin. He's very resistant to a lot of stuff, and he's very lucky because he actually went to the Dwarven Kingdom and came back alive, which a lot of people obviously didn't think would happen because goblins don't live long lives, but that's Gapta. And he actually did not evolve look-wise. He was still the same look, but apparently that's just what he was. Shizue Aizawa, or Shizu, is a Majin that was summoned to the world and had Ifrit placed inside of her, so that's her right there. A Majin is basically a human with magical powers, but she only had her magical powers thanks to Ifrit and being a deviant, which allowed her to live and assimilate Ifrit's powers into her own, even though sometimes she couldn't control it. She was given a mask that allowed her to control Ifrit, and she wore it all the time, so that way she would always be the one in charge and not Ifrit after she met the hero, which of course the hero she knows is no longer existence. They died, I'm going to assume. Then you meet Ellen, or as they say in Japan, Erin, an adventurer, a sorceress with unique types of magic. Her icicle lances are awesome when battling Ifrit. Cabal, or as in this, is Caval, an adventurer, master defense, and a fighter class. Guido, an adventurer, a thief, and excelled at reconnaissance, which is how he's there. He can do stealth. Ooh, 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 ooh. You have Leon Cromwell. He's a human demon lord that summoned Shizu and placed Ifrit inside of. And he was like, show me your determination to live. Because he thought she was a failure. And he's done it before. Summoned many, many, many. And they were all failures, in his opinion. Then you have Purino, a human that worked for Cromwell. Ifrit killed her using Shizu because Pizu was being thought of as a threat. And Pizu was a fox monster that didn't like Cromwell. at all. They were both killed at the same time. Then you have Kaijin. He's a blacksmith that is world renowned and a dwarf. Then you have Gazelle Dwargo, a hero and the king of the Dwarven Kingdom, who was really upset with one of his ministers because he knew the slime, Rimuru, was an extremely powerful being, and he had to exile Rimuru based off from what Vester was doing, the minister was doing, because he had to take the minister's word at. And of course, the trial was rigged. So he was like, you know what you've done? You've lost us a very valuable asset to the kingdom. Like, and you be gone. You can't be around me either. So Garm is the oldest brother of the dwarf triplets. He's an armor crafter. You have Dold, which is an intricate handiworker, which means he can do things like sewing and cloth and things, and it'd be just intricately done. And then Mildo, who doesn't talk, is an architect art, a savant. Anything he touches, he does a wonderful job at. Kaido is a guard, that is Kaijin's brother, who was the only one that wasn't thrown out of the Dwarven Kingdom out of all the dwarves we met. Vester was the minister that was jealous of Kaijin's closeness with King Gazelle and wanted that place, that position, to be useful to King Gazelle. And because of that and his jealousy, he's the reason why those 4 dwarves and himself got kicked out of the Dwarven Kingdom. And then the last one I put in here, because there were a lot of characters, was Fuse. He runs the free guild in the Kingdom of Blumen. And a free guild is just a guild that exists all over the world, the eastern side, the western side, not the eastern side, that helps adventurers. It has an information network wide that kills monsters and things like that. The Kingdom of Blumen is actually right next to the Forest of Jura, where Veldora was stored in a cave, and it is also the forest that Rimuru sets up his new village. There are several POVs within this story, and those are Rimuru, Shizu, Ellen, and Fuse. My favorite character was Rimuru because he just takes things as they come to him and does his best for those around him. And actually, Ellen and Cabal are actually what's in here. Aaron and Cabal are what's in the anime. Because for some reason they had to change their names. Well, really what they did is they had to change it for the Japanese translations. And that was the best way to do it. And it just stuck for the English ones as well. My favorite character was Rimuru because he just takes things as it comes and does his best for those around him. I don't recall if I said that already or not. My most disliked character was Vester. I forgot to put the ER in there because for some reason I just did. He allowed his jealousy to get the better of him. It was sort of told in chronological order because Shizu's perspective was in the past up until a certain point. So when it switched to Shizu's perspective at the end of the chapter, it would be in the past leading up to where her chapter comes in. And there's not that many chapters in this book. I think there's like 4, maybe 5 chapters in a side story. So like it's very, very long chapters. It had appropriate language for what it was, and it did have some good foreshadowing and not a lot of build up for suspense because it releases it pretty quickly. The background was explained enough to understand Rimuru and Shizu, and monsters don't really need a lot of background information, especially since their lives were insignificant and then they become significant eventually. The title of the book meant the main character got reincarnated as a slime. Obviously. That's supposed to be Veldora in the background too. The cover of the book shows Rimuru in his slime form, Shizu, Rangagapka, and of course Veldora, Olwell, and the castle in the background. What stood out as memorable was Rimuru panics and still takes things as it comes to him because he knows that he doesn't have a choice as he's in a new world that he was reincarnated into. My favorite passage from the story is something about how earning a name provides a sort of divine blessing that helps boost your ability as a monster, hence the evolution. So by earning a name, you evolve. My favorite quote is in the very beginning, well, not the very beginning, but in the beginning of him being a slime. Ah, God, you're a dragon. First time he sees Veldora. For promising not to freak out or wig out or scream or anything like that. He's like, okay, don't panic, don't panic, don't panic. You know? What I thought about the ending of the book. It was a great first introduction into the world and the characters, and that's basically what the book says it was. Like, and before long, this single slime named Rimuru would play a central role in some of the most humblest times this world has ever seen. So that's, you know, the end. Well, it goes, and Satoru Mikami, an average middle-aged man living a perfectly unexceptional life, came to enjoy his unexpected reincarnation as slime. After acquiring the form and emotions of a certain woman, he also gained a mission in his new life. So that's basically all this book was, an introduction into the world and into Rimuru and his future. What book did it remind me of? The How to Train Your Dragon book 1 as a good way to introduce everything, because that's basically what Hiccup's book does, is it introduces the world, the characters, and the build up for the setup for the future. And that's what this one does as well. This book, as you know, is part of a series called That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. It currently has 20 books, but I'm unsure if that is the last book or not, because I thought there was supposed to be like 22, 23 books. But currently the 20th book is coming out at the time of this recording. So, who knows. I rate this a 5 because Rimuru is an awesome character that only does his best in each situation he finds himself in. Not just thinking about himself, but also the others around him. Like, selfless. He died saving his co-worker, whom was just called him out to show off that he had a girlfriend. Like, seriously. That's it. And when he meets Veldora, he's like, I will help you bust out of this imprisonment so that way you can be free and not die. And then he's like, okay, well, I'll help out the goblins. And then he's like, okay, I guess I have goblins and direwolves underneath me. And then he's like, let me keep these adventurers who just stepped into my world, into my life here, safe. He's like, I just need some dwarves to help build up the goblin village so that way they have more going on, because I want them to learn and evolve and have better stuff. And then he's like, well, let me protect my people from Ifrit and save Shizu if I can. Yeah, I'll take on your will and everything that you want to do before you die. Sure, I will do that. Like, Rimuru's like, yeah, okay, I can do this. Yeah, okay, I'll do this. Literally just other things for other people constantly. And yes, sure, he does think about himself living and surviving and gaining new powers to live and survive more and more, but a lot of his actions are towards helping others while saving his own skin. So, if you think I deserve a like, comment, or even a lovely subscription, drop it down below. I will see you next illusion.